Hi everyone, I am Gina Rose Cagas and we will gonna talk about the 1987 or the Constitution after martial law. In this constitution, President Corazon Aquino's government had three options regarding the constitution. First is the revert to the 1935 constitution. Second is the retain of the 1973 Constitution and be granted the power to make reforms or start anew. And the third is the break from the vestiges of a disgraced dictatorship.
They decided to make a new constitution that, according to the president herself, should be truly reflected of the aspirations and ideals of the Filipino people. In March 1986, President Aquino proclaimed a transitional constitution to last for a year while a constitutional commission drafted a permanent constitution. This transitional constitution, called the Freedom Constitution. Freedom Constitution maintained many provisions of the old one, including in written form the presidential right to rule by decree. In 1986, a constitutional convention was created, composed of 48 members appointed by President Aquino from varied backgrounds and representations. The convention drew up a permanent constitution, largely restoring the setup abolished by Marcos in 1972, but with the new ways to keep the president in check, a reaction to the experience of Marcos' rule. The new constitution was officially adopted on February 2, 1987. The Constitution begins with a preamble and 18 self-contained articles. It established the Philippines as a democratic republican state, where sovereignty resides in the people and all government authority emanates from them. It allocates governmental powers among the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the government. The executive branch is headed by the president of his cabinet, whom he appoints. The president is the head of the state and the chief executive, but his power is limited by significant checks from the two other co-equal branches of government, especially during times of emergency. This is put in the place to safeguard the country from the experience of martial law despotism during the presidency of Marcos. In cases of national emergency, the president may still declare martial law, but not longer than a period of 60 days. Congress, through a majority vote, can revoke this decision or extend it for a period that they determine. The Supreme Court may also review the declaration of martial law and decide if there were sufficient justifying facts for the act. The President and the Vice President are elected at large by a direct vote, serving a single 6-year term. The legislative power resides in a Congress divided into two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. The 24 senators are elected at large by popular vote and can serve no more than two consecutive 6-year terms. The House is composed of district representatives representing a particular geographic area and makes up around 80% of the total number of representatives. There are 234 legislative districts in the Philippines that elect their representatives to serve 3-year terms. The 1987 Constitution created a party-list system to provide spaces for the participation of underrepresented community sectors or groups. Party list representatives may fill up not more than 20% of the seats in the House. Aside from the exclusive power of legislation, Congress may also declare war, through a two-thirds vote in both upper and lower houses. The power of the legislation, however, is also subject to an executive check as the President retains the power to veto or stop a bill from becoming a law. Congress may only override this power with a two-thirds vote in the both houses. The Philippine court system is vested with the power of the judiciary and is composed of a Supreme Court and lower courts as created by law. The Supreme Court is a 15-member court appointed by the President without the need to be confirmed by Congress. The appointment the President makes, however, is limited to a list of nominees provided by a constitutionally specified judicial and bar council. The Supreme Court justices may hear, on appeal, any cases dealing with the constitutionality of any law, treaty, or decree of the government, cases where questions of jurisdiction or judicial error are concerned, or cases where the penalty is sufficiently grave. It may also exercise original jurisdiction over cases involving government or international officials. The Supreme Court is also in charge of overseeing the functioning and administration of the lower courts and their personnel. The Constitution also established three independent constitutional commissions, namely the Civil Service Commission, a central agency in charge of government personnel, the Commission on Elections, mandated to enforce and administer all election laws and regulations, and the Commission on Audit, which examines all funds, transactions, and property accounts of the government and its agencies. To further promote the ethical and lawful conduct of the government, the Office of the Ombudsman was created to investigate complaints that pertain to public corruption, unlawful behavior of public officials, and other public misconduct. The Ombudsman can charge public officials before the Sandigan Bayan, a special court created for this purpose. Changing the Constitution is a perennial issue that crops up in terms such as cha-cha, con-us, and con-con are regularly thrown around. Article 17 of the 1987 Constitution provides for three ways by which the Constitution can be changed. Congress or House of Representatives and the Senate may convene as a continuant assembly or con-us to propose amendments to the Constitution. It is not clear, however, if Congress is to vote as a single body or separately. Another method is through the Constitutional Convention or CONCON, where Congress, upon a vote of two-thirds of all its members, call for a constitutional convention. They may also submit to the electorate the question of calling a convention through a majority vote of all its members. The third method is called the People's Initiative or PI. In this method, amendments to the Constitution may be proposed by the people upon a petition of at least 12% of the total number of registered voters. All legislative districts must be represented by at least 12% of the registered voters therein. Amendments or revision to the Constitution shall be valid only when ratified by a majority of the votes cast in a national referendum.
Only the House of Representatives can initiate the impeachment of the President. Members of the Supreme Court and other constitutionally protected public officials such as the Ombudsman. The Senate will then try the impeachment case. This is another safeguard to promote moral and ethical conduct in the government. So that's all for the 1987 Constitution. Again, I am Gina Rose Cagas. Thank you for listening, everyone.